previous video, or in the first lesson, we made mention of, or we quickly spoke about how to declare variables, and then along the line we faced some challenges in declaring the string variable. So this video is just to quickly go through how to handle the string variable, how to take string variables, and then how to output them to the screen before we do with the exercise. Alright, so without wasting much time, let's get started. So we first open our terminal and then create a file using our favorite text editor. So I'll call it lesson string lesson, or strless. So .c now, and then once we open it, so first we made mention that to declare, you first have to let your machine or the compiler know the file you are compiling by using the standard ways, or the standard inputs and outputs. So first we declare let's C include the standard input output library .h header, and then we declare our int main function. I'm returning nothing, so I want it to be void. And then now, so we made mention that to declare a string you need to use the data type character and then the string name. So I'll call this probably the variable name, so maybe I want this to be surname, right? Now one way of doing it is surname, and then you use the square bracket as though you are trying to declare an array, because practically a string is just an array of characters. So we use a square bracket. You could choose to assign this to a name, straightforward, probably sedem, and then you terminate it. So basically what this does is that it creates the name, a variable called surname, and then assigns the sedem to the surname. Now we left this blank because it does what? We don't know the number of digits, the number of letters that are included in the name we are assigning or we are given. So if you want to display this name, all you have to do is do printf, right? Printf, and then we say %s for string, and then comma surname, the surname as in the variable you stored. And then let's save this and try compiling and see whether we would get some error. So we called our app string strless, so gcc strless.c. I want the output to be saved in a file called .x. So I hit enter, and then it compiles without an error. Let's run it and see. So strless.x, very good. The name sedem has been printed to screen. Now this works fine, right? But then what if we want to take input from the user? We want to let the user declare or enter his name or a surname, right? So all we do is, there are several ways of doing it. I think we'll be talking about some of the ways here, and then we'll leave the others to you to go and explore on your own. So you first have to declare your data type obviously it's a character, and then the name. So maybe we'll call this first name or full name, right? Full name, right? So your full name, and then this time around we want it to be 20 letters or 20 elements, and then we terminate. We don't give it anything. We want to take it from the user. One way of getting info or getting input from the user is through the use of the scanf, right? So the scanf function takes an input from the user. So you could decide to scanf and then take the input. What are you taking? It's a string, so %s, right? And then where do we store it? You could choose to just enter the name, right? Full name. And then we wouldn't get any error, simply because the full name variable that we created is regarded as a pointer, or it returns a pointer. So once we can insert the full name without putting the address of operator there. So we can do it without putting the address of ampersand operator there, and then we'll get the desired outcome. So first let's remove it and then see whether we get an error. And then we want to just print f full name, right? So %s and then full name. Okay, so this looks fine. Let's bring a new line here and then save. Now, once we compile, there's no error. Let's run it and see. It's access for our name. So I'll put, it wants a full name, so let me give it Joseph, or let me give it Sedem, right? And then hit enter. You see, it takes in the name Sedem and then prints Sedem, but then we can see that it's printing it twice. It's actually printing Sedem twice for us, and then that's a problem, right? Because we asked it to do what? Take 20 elements, so it tries to cover up the spaces. Aside that, this becomes a problem. So let's see how we can handle it. What if we rerun our program, okay, and then give it multiple names, say Sedem, right? And then hit enter. You see that it's only the Sedem that has been printed to screen. So what happens to the other Sedem, right? So this becomes a problem, right? So it means that using the scanf has its limits. So it only reads or takes input from the screen up to a white space. So here we realize that after seeing this white space here, it stops and then doesn't continue or doesn't store this one here. So that is one way. And then we realize that after the name Sedem, right? So let's say Joseph, and then I hit enter, space. If you print it, you see that it prints it only once. So it's one workaround with the multiple printing here. But then, talking about that, we realize that it only prints what? The first name, and then chops it off after getting or after the white space. So one way of going around that is by including this square brackets and then say that read up to, we should put that to the scanf side. So square brackets and then read up to a new line, right? So this percentage square brackets caret, then the \n, then the square brackets close s would make it read up to a new line. So until to read everything you give it until it hits or you press the enter key. So let's save it and rerun this and see what happens. So after saving, we rerun. Let's compile, no error, and rerun. So now let's give it Joseph Sedem, right? And then hit enter. So you see that here Joseph Sedem prints out to the screen, but still it's still repeating, or it's still printing it twice, right? So let me clear the screen here, and then this time around let me rerun and probably give it Jerry Bodman, and then once I hit enter, you see now it takes every word we give it, every letter or every word, full name as usual. So the percentage, square bracket, caret, \n, that's the magic for us. Now another way of doing this without going through this pain, right, is actually by using the fgets, right? So fgets function, which is also part of the standard input output. So let's create another character, right? Data called, let's say, first name, right? And then this time around we want it to, so first name takes, let's say, maybe 20 elements. We enter that line there, and then now we are using what the fgets. So let me put a little comment here to guide us. So using fgets function, so here I'll call it using scanf function, right? So that's for that. And then now, so using the fgets, all we have to do is just call the fgets, right? Now this fgets takes 3 arguments. One is the name of the variable you are assigning the input to. So we want it to go to the first name, right, variable. And then the second is the number of elements this variable takes, and then we already gave it 20. And then the third is where you want to take the input from. You want it from the standard input side, that's the keyboard. So we want the input from the keyboard. So basically that's what happens for the fgets function. And then we could still decide to print it. So here let's do printf, but then let's call it first name, right? First name. And then we save and try to recompile without an error, and then let's run. So Jerry Bodman. So yes, we see that now it hasn't printed, it printed Jerry Bodman to screen, right? And then we realize that this is what we actually want, right? So let's see, sorry, to first name, yep. So now another way of printing or outputting the input or anything you want to do, a string, to the terminal or to the user, to display it to the user to see, is through by the use of the fputs, right? So you can either choose to use the printf, sorry, or use the fputs. So using the fputs, fputs function, right? So this uses what fputs. So we have fputs here, fputs, and then we want it to print but now the fputs also receives two arguments, right? Or two parameters. The first one is the name of the variable you are printing to screen, right? And then the second one is what? Where you are displaying it to. This is the standard output. So you do the std out. And that's it. So let's see what will happen here. Let's save and compile our code. Jerry Bodman. What's happening? I'm getting an error here. So hold on. Okay, so I've realized that the scanf function is still working. So first let's comment it out and still see what's happened. Okay, so this works. So we realize that the error we had, or the problem we were having, was because the scanf was still receiving, so it didn't know what to do. So basically the fputs also displays the input we take from screen, and it places on the screen for us to see. So fgets also takes input, but unlike the scanf, the fgets takes any as any group of names or a string. So you could give it your surname, your middle name, and then your first name all together. As far as the number of elements is not exceeded, it takes all of them and then prints it out there for you. So another demonstration would be, so let's first clear the screen and then recompile it, run it and see. So the name you want probably is Jerry Bodman, right? Maybe Paul. It prints the Jerry Bodman Paul for you to see. So basically that's how the fgets works. Fgets prints every word you give it. So it depends on when you want to use it or the use case that you would like to use the fgets for. So basically that's how we take or assign the character variable. You can decide to give it straightforward from the assignment or from the declaration, or if you can decide to receive input from the user either by using the scanf. But then scanf, its limitations are the scanf works and then ends at a space, unless of course you decide to give it this square brackets arguments, then it can read up to a line. But then if you use the fgets function, the fgets receives 3 arguments. You first give it the variable you want to store the input to, the number of elements you are expecting, and then where you are taking the input from. So that's the standard input domain, that's our keyboard. And then if you want to print it out, you could also use the fputs. These fputs also receive 2 parameters or 2 arguments. The first one is a name, the variable you are putting to the screen or you are printing to the screen. The second one is the type of screen, is the standard output, so it's the screen, the terminal. So basically that's how we declare and use strings or characters. I hope you found this video useful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. In the next video, we'll look at how to solve the assignments and then you make use of the things we studied in the first video. Thank you.